What's going on, Soul Nation? Ginger Prime here with our final Stasis Spotlight covering the Hunter Revenant this time around. If you've missed our previous coverage, we've covered the Behemoth and the Shadebinder for Stasis. This is the upcoming changes with Beyond Light, a brand new element, a brand new, in this case, darkness, power. How are we going to tie into this? Honestly, I can't wait to find out, especially as it relates to the lore of this game. Speaking of lore, if you guys don't follow, my name is Bife. I'll include a link to his channel in the description below. We had him on the podcast last year around Shadowkeep, so hopefully we'll get him back to talk more Destiny again. But beyond that random just mindset that just popped into my head, let's talk about the Hunter and let's talk about their powers, which they'll get with Stasis. So it says, bring the storm. Revenants are a worthy ally in a battle. Summon the storm and use it for cover, lure enemies inside, and then unleash devastation. You've got silence and squall. Channeling stasis shards towards them, Revenant form a comma blade, and they can use them to unleash a lethal two-pronged attack. I thought that was going to say a karma or a comma, but a comma, K-A-M-A. Interesting. Withering Blade. Revenant throws razor-sharp stasis shurikens into the fray that ricochet off multiple enemies and surface, slowing and damaging them in the process. Deadly Edge. Upon impact, the first blade shatters and sends out a wave of stasis energy that freezes any enemy in the surrounding area. And Stasis Storm. The second blade hits and creates a violent stasis storm that hones in on nearby enemies, slowing, damaging, and eventually freezing them. Beyond Light drops on November the 10th. And also, as a random aside, it is also coming to Game Pass. A number of the comments that I keep getting on current guides is like, hey, what version should I buy? If you have Game Pass and you're on Xbox, you're covered. I think that actually drops this week. Beyond the Game Pass, it is rumored that it's coming to Game Pass PC next year, which I think would be a huge asset to Destiny itself. And then beyond all of that, just note that if you're looking to purchase any part of the game, I'd recommend Shadowkeep. I'd hold off right now until we get one word or another on Forsaken. But if you're looking for content and you get a good deal, Forsaken is always a good choice. All right, anyway, back to the post. Welcome to this edition in our series of Stasis Spotlight articles. We were examining stasis for each of the three Guardians classes. If you missed any of the previous, links in the description, also to this post as well. Now, finding the fantasy. One of the most important parts of developing Stasis as its accompanying Guardian subclasses has been the defining each of their fantasies. The team has spent a great deal of time iterating on each subclass, starting with the fantasy that instantly summarizes the experience. In some cases, that comes with ease. For example, the fantasy shorthand for the Warlock Shadebinder was to establish early on as an ice wizard. From that simple phrase, anyone could instantly conjure the image in their mind of what it would be like to play as stasis-powered Warlock in Beyond Light, summoning your stasis staff and unleashing dark energy to freeze your opponents. Other times, the fantasy evolves over the course of many discussions, iterations, and playtests. That was the case with the Hunter Revenant subclass, and it went through many iterations before we aligned on the Ninja archetype. Yes. The result is an amazing Stasis experience that we can't wait for the Hunter fans to enjoy themselves. Early on, we knew that the Hunter would embody the idea of slowing the battle around them with their Stasis powers. That starts with Withering Blade. The Hunter Revenant's melee attack. The player throws a deadly stasis shuriken into the fight, and it ricochets off the surfaces of enemies, slowing and damaging them along the way. Land 2 shurikens on the same target, and that enemy will be instantly frozen. Then, fully charged with the ability energy, the Hunter Revenant can unleash their deadly super, Silence and Squall, named after a pair of comma blades that the Hunter summons. This super involves a two-pronged attack, each with comma blade having a different function. The first blade, when thrown, immediately detonates on impact, freezing enemies in a radius from the center of the blast. Hurl the Squall, the second blade, and it will embed itself into the surface or an enemy, and then detonate, creating a stasis storm that will track nearby enemies, slowing them and damaging them as it makes contact. And look at these images, guys. This looks amazing. I love the ice kind of connection, and I have a theory, and I don't like put any like weight onto it yet, but I'm curious to see as with the Witch Queen, if with Lightfall, from a balancing perspective, we start to see even more elements added into the wheel itself. But anyway, regardless, here we are for Beyond Light and Stasis. So, as is the case with the Warlock Shadebinder and Behemoth, players using the Revenant will also be able to customize their powers over the time using aspects and fragments. If you guys missed any of that coverage, you can check the link again, or Honestly, I hope it is, hope it's balanced. And if it is thus balanced, I'm wondering if we start to see them bring that back to the other elements as well down the road, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, you can check out the previous articles or videos for more details. So this includes, for example, the hunter-specific slow dodge aspect, which will allow the Revenant to temporarily slow enemies each time performing a dodge. Oh gosh. How is this not going to be broken at first? Like, I'm sure that things will get worked out, but imagine just slowing people with the dodge. Oh, that's gonna be rough. That's gonna be so good for support, but also so good for recovery. Hunters are gonna be fierce. All right, anyway, so then it kind of shows off, obviously, like you have Shatter Dive. So you have a frozen scream top of the gemstones, activate while in midair to quickly descend and shatter nearby enemies on impact. And it binds to a or the circle, long press in this case. And then you can see more things. Whisper of Herald Runs, gain a bonus to weapon damage after freezing a target with stasis. And it has a negative, in this case, of strength. So different builds will affect your stats. And so this is probably going to have a big impact on your gear, especially if you're trying to rock a strength build. Strength would be really important if you can slow and you got those shurikens. Getting those access is just going to be so... The build potential is going to be massive in this case. Anyway, things that go boom. Apart from the intrinsic stasis abilities that will be a part of each subclass, all Guardian classes using stasis will have their choice of a variety of stasis grenades to use in combat. Glacier Grenade. Upon contact with the ground, a wall of stasis crystals instantly bursts through the earth. Nearby frozen enemies are frozen inside the stasis crystal. These grenades have multiple uses, from encasing enemies to creating cover. When destroyed, the crystals will create an AoE burst damage to all nearby enemies. Cold Snap Grenade. Upon impact with the ground or an enemy, this grenade unleashes a wave of stasis energy that races along the ground in the direction of the closest nearby enemy, freezes them, and then searches out the next nearby foe. This can freeze up to 3 enemies in a single Cold Snap Grenade. Holy mother of pearls, that's amazing. Anyway, Dusk Field Grenade. Dusk Field Grenades create powerful stasis fields that suck enemies into them when forming. Now, once the enemy is caught inside, they will be slowed and, if unable to make it out in time, frozen in place. All 3 of these grenade abilities show the potential of stasis to change the way you fight in Beyond Light, slowing enemies and having an obvious advantage. We've put a lot of effort into thinking how the stasis affects combat for both PvE and PvP situations, including things like how often you can freeze a foe and how long those freeze durations last. So freeze doesn't sound, it's not an instant, freeze is not instant death in this case. The ability to create a new geometry with stasis is also exciting in new addition, as a well-timed Glacier Grenade can now create stasis crystal formations that can perform double duty as platforms, and players are going to use this new power, be it in the form of a grenade or a super, to gain easier access to tough-to-reach areas, create new lines of sight, or even do things that we could never predict, which will happen, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, wielding stasis is going to be an unprecedented change to Destiny 2, and this is a new take on the elemental power, where the path to victory is found through controlling the enemy and the place of the fight instead of through brute force and damage. With aspects and fragments, we're also giving players a new level of control over their stasis experience. I honestly cannot wait to go hands-on, and this, just what they showed me today in this post, is literally going to have me actually play a hunter. I'm not promising I'm going to main it, but I can tell you and I can guarantee, like, this I think should have everybody maybe even rethinking their mains when you go into Beyond Light, because it sounds like a lot of things are changing. If you've ever wanted to be a space ninja, hey, Revenant might be your bag. Or you like to be that ice wizard, perfect. You got the Shadebinder. Or finally, you've got the Behemoth. You just want to go and punch things. But that's always been the Titan's kind of key aspect, hasn't it? So anyway, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this Stasis Spotlight for the Hunter Revenant. My name is Brian, and this is Ginger Prime. Thanks for coming in, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like if you feel like I've earned it. If you're new here and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, and this is the video that gets you to do it, hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments below so I can welcome you officially to the Soul Nation. Anyway, without making this video longer than it needs to be, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video, but until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.